Affordable housing isn't just a McPherson story, it's a Kansas story. From McPherson County to communities across the state, safe, stable homes are essential for thriving families. At the McPherson Housing Coalition, we're developing emergency shelters like the Oak Harbor Cottages and building permanent supportive homes through projects such as Sutherland Estates, creating housing that includes wraparound care and services. If you believe every Kansan deserves a place to call home, your support matters, whether you're in McPherson or miles away. Learn how you can help listeners and neighbors across Kansas by visiting McPhersonHousingCoalition.org.
Welcome to Housing for Good, a podcast dedicated to housing topics and issues affecting our communities in McPherson County and beyond. With years of experience and expertise, hosts Chris Goodson and Karolyn Moore discuss housing challenges and opportunities with other experts from a variety of housing fields.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Housing for Good. I'm Karolyn.
And I'm Chris.
All right, Chris, I have the news this week.
Oh, you do?
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so there was a report that was sent out by a group that works to end homelessness, National Alliance to End Homelessness. And this was published September 18th.
Fairly new.
Very, very new, yes. The federal government does not allocate nearly enough funding to meet the nationwide demand for permanent housing. On the 2024 point-in-time count, there was only enough permanent housing available to 8% of people experiencing homelessness in the United States.
Oh, wow. I had never heard that stat before. That's terrible. So you can't end homelessness until we figure out how to build more housing.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen. I mean, so we can be working at it all we want. We can stabilize people and we can do all this stuff. But unless an organization like McPherson Housing Coalition builds housing along with their efforts, we might as well just forget it and go home because we're not going to do it.
Nope. And then this week, there's been 2 news stories on Cake News over in Wichita. So the first one is a quote, I will quote from Lily Wu, their mayor. Just yesterday, as I was driving here to City Hall, I saw a man on Central pull down his pants and start defecating on the street. This is not indicative of this community. This is not a healthy community. A healthy community is compassionate. And then there was conversation. This gets my blood boiling. And the police chief said, I'm not quite sure what good it would do to issue a homeless person a citation that they don't have the money to pay. And Captain Aaron Moses noted that people cannot be cited if no shelter space is available, and that police are now coordinating with Second Light and United Way as winter approaches. So they don't have enough beds to have people sleep. They want to make it a crime because you're homeless. And I would agree. I don't feel like there's much compassion from the mayor in Wichita regarding the homeless.
I will say that I love what the police chief said, though. That he acknowledged that, wait a minute, does it make sense for us to cite this person? They can't pay it. There's no bed for the man. Why are we doing that? Well, yeah, we have to really take that into consideration. You know, when we are doing things across the nation, what are we doing?
Okay, so I'm not done.
Oh, okay.
2 days later.
Oh, my gosh, this is good.
A council member, they had a special city workshop. And one of the council members suggested drafting a stricter no camping policy, which would involve defining, ready for it, what is a sidewalk, so that they can keep homeless people from sleeping on them. And again, there is some sanity, just like with the police chief and the one captain of the police department. Councilmember Brandon Johnson. Now, we've met him before when we went to Topeka.
Have we met him?
We have, yes. And he said more laws aren't the solution in response to the debate about homelessness or defining what a sidewalk is. He says the conversation needs to be about resources rather than taking issue with homelessness for existing in public. And he went back to back in the 90s. So was this before we shut down our mental health hospitals?
No, that happened in the 80s.
Okay, well, he said they have 100 beds being funded from a mental health hospital now. But in the 90s, we lost 5,000 beds.
Oh, really? And then the
Think
80s.
what a difference, 5,000 beds.
Well, in the 80s, we lost, I don't have the stats on that, but I know in the 80s when Reagan was the president, he had shut down a lot of, from my understanding, I'm not a professional person looking this stuff up, but he had shut down mental health hospitals.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has added to this homeless crisis. It's not the only reason we have that going on. I mean, look how many seniors that we've helped and how many single moms who aren't getting their child support and how many people who've had fires and all that stuff. It's not the only reason that this is going on, but it's not helping matters when you're releasing people from mental health hospitals or when it has happened in the past. I don't know that I don't think it's happening now. Although I will say I know some people who've been in a mental health hospital in recent history who should never have been released.
And they were.
And they were. And had they not had a support system, probably would have ended up on the street. So, and that's really scary if you think about it. I obviously don't like homelessness for personal reasons. You know, it hurts families, it hurts people. But if you think about it, we also don't want homelessness. I don't want to go to a city and see homeless people because, honestly, I don't feel safe.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm not compassionate, but I always told my kids, desperate people do desperate things. So the most kindest, wonderfulest person may do something out of their character because they need food, because they need shelter, because they have to go to the bathroom, because they need all these things. Yeah. And at some point, you almost become animalistic a little bit because you're in the survival mode. Yeah. So what else are they supposed to do, honestly? But so it needs to be solved for a myriad of reasons. But if we don't have the housing, what are we doing? And I know in Wichita, it seems like they've been working at things, but I don't really know what's going on there. It feels like that they want to do things where they want to do something ginormous and do all this stuff. And I'm like, you know, slow your roll a little bit. Yeah. Do something small and grow it. Yeah. Do you have to build 500 homes? Build 50, build 10. Yeah. Figure out what it is that works in your city and then expand it. Why do you have to start off with remember when we were up there in Topeka and they were asking for $40 million for all
of the money for homelessness
they wanted,
in the state.
I think they wanted at least half or 75% of that money. And I mean, we don't need that much because we start small and we grow. Yeah. We figured out with our emergency shelter what works, what doesn't work. What works in a big city does not necessarily work where we live.
Yeah, yeah. But I thought it was very timely because do you remember back, what was it, our first or second housing conference when we had Lily Millwit?
Yes.
Talking about criminalizing homelessness. And she said, it's not here now, but it's coming. And we're like, I don't know. And then our mayor said how there may be laws about not camping on the books, but we don't enforce them that way.
It doesn't matter.
But
it doesn't matter.
So we have kind of watched this happen over the last couple of years where now it's in everybody's face and everybody is talking about it. So
yeah, I can't remember what group she was with. It's not National Alliance to End Homelessness, but it was.
No, it was a lawyer. One of our legal law.
But anyways, it was real. She was very, very good, and she was very prophetic.
Yeah.
She's like, well, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see what you end up doing when your homelessness grows, and all of a sudden, people in town don't want to see it anymore, and then you're trying to figure out how to hide them under the bridge or wherever you're going with them.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly right.
Anyway, so we haven't had that. I feel good about where we live because we were proactive and we didn't wait till we had a problem and then go, oopsie, we need to fix this now, right?
Yep.
So anyways, good news, Karolyn. That was good. I don't know how people who were listening to it felt about how good it was, but I thought it was awesome.
I hope it makes people look around their own neighborhood and say, okay, what is really going on? Who is working to help these folks, and where are we giving the resources for it? Yeah.
Ooh, what are we going to talk about next?
Well, we're going to talk about yesterday's housing conference. So again, 5th annual, just happened yesterday. So I'm still a little worn out because it was a long day.
I'm worn out too, but I thought we had about 70, 80 people, which for us, that's a lot. Yeah. And good participation. We had people from all different walks of life. It wasn't necessarily, we had real estate agents. We had people from the retired people came in. I saw some church people there.
Service providers.
We had some nonprofit leaders there. It was a great day. We had lots of government people. We had somebody, the Marquette administrator was there. We had Lindsberg and Inman, McPherson.
We even had a surprise visit from one of
Jerry
Moran's staffers, Mike. I love him.
Yeah,
he comes
awesome.
a lot of the times, and this time he wasn't sure, so he didn't commit.
Yeah.
And then he just surprised us. So,
yes,
Mike Zamzarilla, if you're listening, thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming. And, Senator Jerry Moran, I will say, he's been very positive and supportive of the work that we're doing. And I just shout that out a little bit out there. But let's talk about some of the speakers. I know there was people in the community, for whatever reason, couldn't come, and they've been calling me and bothering me. That sounds rude of me, but it's like... I'm saying this nicely right now, not what I'm really thinking in my brain.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we'll kind of go over who these speakers were and talk a little bit about what each one of them talked about. We have 2 tracks. Track 1 is the development side, has everything to do with development, how you raise money and all kinds of things. And the other side is the social services side. So we'll let Karolyn cover that side because she sat on that side and I sat on the other side. We did open the day. Actually, Karolyn and I did share a little bit about what's going on with McPherson Housing Coalition, some of the funding that we're looking at receiving, our plans for the future for construction and housing in McPherson County, Kansas, and all of that. That was fun.
Yeah, it was. And I think people were literally surprised at 5 years of doing this conference, the things that have started as a result of the conference, and exactly what we've gotten done. I heard a lot of positive comments, and I think people were generally maybe a little bit surprised, but at the same time, it just kind of reinforces what they've been watching happen.
Yeah, so that was really cool. So anyways, that's how we started the day. So a part of it is about moving McPherson County forward with housing at most levels.
Yeah.
We're not building $1 million mansions for anybody, but we are building low-income housing, workforce housing. I mean, those are the 2 areas, really. If you don't have workforce housing, especially, you're not going to get a teacher, a fireman, a policeman. All those type of jobs need that need that type of housing. So we talked about that.
Regardless of what your income is, if you're part of the workforce, you need housing.
Right.
So I was very pleased and very excited to sit in and listen to Dr. Laura Vanderhoof on the housing stability side. And she talked about a group that she works with called Set Free. And oh my gosh, she has so much training and education on human trafficking, how to fight against it, how to go in and offer trauma care to the first responders, to people that actually find victims that are human trafficked, things to look out for, how to make yourself aware of what you're seeing, and how not to get yourself in over your head by thinking, I'm going to rescue this person. That's not your job. Your job is to pick up the phone, dial 911, keep eyes on the situation as long as you can until the authorities get there. But it was a lot of really good questions and good conversation about her topic, which we've had her on our podcast before. And human trafficking is just never one of those conversations that gets easier. But it is definitely a conversation that needs to happen.
Yeah, so that was on my side. At the same time, we had Dusty Humphreys. She is the Assistant Vice President for the Federal Home Loan Bank, and she was talking about the AHP grant, which is Affordable Housing Program. I think that's what that stands for. So she was really explaining to the group exactly what that was, and basically what it does is it helps you. So when you're building affordable housing, you need some kind of incentives to be able to build that housing, otherwise you can't afford to build it, right?
Yeah.
So she was talking about the grant applications and the points that you needed, and gave a lot of stories about how you do it and what that looked like. And she said she had one gentleman that didn't know how to fill one out, and at the last minute he went ahead and did it, and he got it through. And then ever since then, she said about every year he gets a grant. And I'm just like, I'm going to go find this man because that's who I need to be talking to, because we've struggled a little bit with that. And then the other part that I was really surprised about, she said that if you don't get the grant, you might be an alternative, and you might be surprised that some of the people turn down the grant after they receive it because they don't get the other portions of the money that they need.
Oh, wow.
So let's say you're going for a low-income housing tax credit and you also want the AHP grant, right? And you, for whatever reason, don't get the low income, well, your project won't work.
Yeah.
And so she talked about that. She had a spreadsheet on all the different points, which I have on my camera, and I took pictures of all of that. So I got to figure out how to send that to myself so we can use that for the McPherson Housing Coalition, because we really depend on all of these types of grants in order to do our work.
And it's not easy. Before I started here, if you would have said, tell me what a housing pro forma is, I would have said, a what? You want to know about my house doing what? But it's part of the funding and whether or not your development will make money, break even, lose money. And there's all kinds of components that go into it. So I've had to learn a lot about how to fill that out and how to figure all that stuff. So
anyway, so what was the next thing you heard about?
Okay, so the next thing I heard on the stability side was from Christina Ashe-Goodry. So she is with the Kansas Housing Advocacy Network. She's actually out of Johnson County, and she is an attorney, but she has turned her talents towards helping to write policy that lawmakers can turn into laws that address different issues. And one that they're really focused on is how, if I commit a felony, let's say I steal something worth lots of money and I get caught. Okay, if it's nonviolent, after a certain period of time, 5 to 7 years, and I have all my fees and fines paid, I can have that expunged off my record. I've turned my life around. I'm not doing that anymore. I can have that taken away so it doesn't impact my life anymore. But if you get an eviction filed against you, it doesn't even have to be awarded. It just has to be filed at the court. And it never goes anywhere, but it stays on your record forever.
Yeah, that really keeps people from having affordable housing and being able to afford anything.
Keep you out of housing.
Yeah. So
she's working on that. She just did a rundown of everything that they are working with our legislators and laws and different things. That's just like one of them. Another one was to make minimum housing standards, and for cities, if there's a complaint and they know there's an issue, and this happened in Wichita and back west somewhere. I'm not exactly sure what city, but they had an entire apartment complex shut down because of the lack of maintenance that the owner did, and it became inhabitable, and they had to condemn it. And guess what? Now it's got to be torn down, and the owner lives out of state. They hide from their responsibilities. So there's also legislation to kind of stop that and make it so the city can go in regardless of whether a tenant wants them to investigate if there is a belief that children or people's health is at stake.
So I love all the work that she's doing. And this is, by the way, she's nonpartisan. So she's not on either side, and she understands both sides and how to have that conversation so that we can speak in a language that the person that you're talking to understands. Depending on what side you're on, you have different priorities.
Yeah.
And they may or may not be wrong, but if you can speak to the person in the language that they understand, you're going to be a lot more successful than if you're trying to push your agenda.
Well, and just a conversation. These are just people like you and I. And just have a conversation. Try to show them your side. But she actually has Republicans and Democrats, both sides of the aisle, that she is working with. So it was just exciting to hear that we're making some progress.
Yeah, I love listening to her.
So who did you hear from?
Well, I heard from Doug Williams. He's the executive director of Grow Hayes, and he talked about what they're doing in Hayes to grow housing. So one of the things that he talked about for infrastructure, so for instance, if somebody's coming into your community and they don't really have the money to put in the sewer and the water and the streets and all that stuff, well, there's a couple options. You can do a rural RHID. It used to be called Rural Housing Incentive District. I think they changed the R.
They changed the initials.
The R is something else. I can't remember. That's where the developer gets a portion of that money back until he's reimbursed for his portion of whatever he put in for you. However, the other thing that he said you could do was the city could bond some of that. So when they bond this, they can get it at a lower rate, and that makes the subdivision much cheaper.
Okay.
So he talked about that. He also talked about the benefits of having nonprofit developers, because they're not necessarily trying to make millions off of the deal.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they want to try to break even at some point. I mean, you can't run a nonprofit without making some money, or you can't pay staffing, you can't pay your bills, you can't do whatever. So that was one of the things that he talked about. But they've had a huge amount of success in Hays growing that community.
And haven't they had a partnership with the college out there for building trades or something?
I can't remember him talking about that.
Okay, maybe that was another conversation that I overheard.
Yeah, I can't remember him talking about that specifically, but I will say now they're focusing on some senior housing, but they've put in hundreds of homes. And what they figured out was, he did bring up the college, but one of the things they figured out was that people would come to Hays, they would interview, and then they would figure out they couldn't live there and say, sorry, we can't take this job. There's no place in your community to live.
Yeah.
Well, they're not really close enough to very many cities. Like McPherson, we're very well located. I mean, we're only 45 minutes from Wichita, 30 from Hutch, 30 from Salina. And so we're like in this golden triangle where we have people have the opportunity to live here and work here and live somewhere else. But in Hays, you're kind of in the middle of nowhere a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I think Salina is, an hour away from Hays or something?
No, it's when we go out there to see family, it's about 2 hours.
Is it 2 hours?
Yeah.
So it's far.
Depends on the route you take.
Yeah,
okay. It's a ways. And the communities that are out there, it's got some smaller communities around it, but they're in the same situation that like Kent and Galva would be, or Wyndham would be for us. They just don't have the housing to support somebody living there and then driving in. So, Hays is kind of out there by itself.
So anyways, he did a great job of talking about what's going on in what he's doing. Really great speaker, and really, he did a good job. And because I remember the mayor of Inman said, wow, I didn't know we could do that. That's a great idea. Maybe we could get so-and-so back here to build some more housing, because we know now we can do some bonding. Yeah. That's going to be nothing really for the city to do. And he thought it was a great idea. So
and that is what I love about our conferences, because even though you think you know what there is to know, there's something to learn.
Yeah.
Things are changing.
All right. Well, so
okay. So then for our keynote over the lunch period, we heard from Carissa Paxton. Now, she's also been on our podcast. And, she gave a completely different take to Hutchinson Housing Development partnership they had with their county and their city, their community foundation, and interfaith housing, all the housing that they've been able to work on. She had a completely different take this time when we heard from her, because housing is her passion. She reminds me a lot of you, because it's all about the housing.
Yeah.
Everything comes back to housing. How do we get more housing?
Yeah.
And I had to laugh, because she said that in Reno County, Hutchinson, they need 1,007 houses to be built now. And she said, I thought about tattooing that number on my back and then making a little hash mark every time we build one. I'm like, oh, honey, don't do that. But didn't you find her keynote really inspiring?
It was great. And what I loved what they're doing in Reno County is the partnerships between the city and the county. So they took those ARPA funds that they got, and they used them for something really positive. Instead of the county and the city commissioners deciding this is what we're going to use the money for, they went to the community foundation in Reno County, and they said, hey, let's have some conversations and be really respectful about this money to the people that we're serving. So they found 3 areas. One was housing, one was childcare. What was the third one?
Wasn't it workforce development?
Yeah, workforce development in Reno County. So they took this money and they used it for the things that the people in their community said needed to happen, instead of unilaterally using it for roads I understand we want to keep our taxes down, but when you get this extra amount of money, you should be using it for things that you can't normally afford to do.
Almost like a once-in-a-lifetime funding opportunity.
It was an absolute, I was so jealous of the way that their county and city came together. Not just the city of Hutchinson, but it was the entire county had the opportunity to use these funds to help build housing. I think the last time I knew, they had did over 88 houses.
Oh, I know. It's
over there. It's a huge amount and they did it wisely, and they did it. What I loved also was they brought their nonprofits in who can do things cheaper. So they didn't take this millions of dollars they got and bring in a bunch of developers who made all this money and ran away. They actually worked within the people that were already in Reno County. So the people that build homes already, the people that do
plumbers,
the nonprofits over there. So I am jealous.
Yeah.
I mean, not that we don't have a great place to live here, but to be able to receive that. I mean, can you imagine what we could have done, even with $150,000 of that money?
Yeah.
It would have been unbelievable about what we could have done with that money.
Made a huge difference.
Huge difference for us. But anyway, so
we heard from her and had a wonderful lunch. Nocky's was our caterer.
Yeah, good job.
And I had the pulled pork.
Yeah, I had the chicken. It was delicious.
Yummy. And then, now that we've made everybody hungry, the last speaker of the day for the stability side was Tucky Allen, again, another person that's actually been on our podcast before. And the difference this time was he actually works with workforce development, but he brought all kinds of information about the housing needs in 95 of the 105 counties in our state, and every single county, every single city that's trying to bring in a workforce, bring in additional industry, whatever that looks like, everybody needs housing. And he said it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And you can't be reactive, you have to be proactive.
Yes. That's awesome. And the last person that I had was Donna Schenk Hamlin, and she talked about land trusts. Well, it's funny because my mom was actually sitting at my table and she goes, I have no idea what she's talking about. I said, don't feel bad. I've heard this 3 times and I'm just now sinking in. I mean, it's so complicated, but it really isn't. So the nonprofits, say us, we own some land, we build housing on it, and then somebody buys the house, but we still own the land. So say the house is worth $200,000. They only have to have $150,000 to buy the house. So they get this $50,000, I don't know, it's like a grant or something. So let's say the house is worth $200,000, they get $150,000. Let's say in 5 years they want to sell that house. Now the house is worth $250,000. Well, they get to make some of the money back, but not all of it. So that original $50,000 that they got as a grant, they don't get that money back. That money goes back then for the next family. So they allow you to take your equity, but only so much of it so that the house remains affordable. I hope I explained that simply, because I know when you first hear it a couple different times, because even my mom said, well, you get this money and what happens?
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't make sense because that is not how any of us, I certainly own the land under my house. I mean, that is such a strange concept. But they're doing that in eastern parts of Kansas. I think, did she say Manhattan, Kansas might be having some of that? So I think this is a great program, something that McPherson Housing Coalition might look into later.
Yeah.
We have a lot of things on the horizon and we can only take so much. And then they have somebody that will come to your community, say we want to buy a big piece of land and do this, and actually help you do it.
Okay.
So it's not like we're going to have to try to go, what? How do we set this up?
I don't have to figure it out.
I don't have to figure out nothing.
I'm so happy about that.
I know, right? It's so wonderful not to have to figure it out. Okay, so then what happened after all this?
Well, we had our 3rd stakeholder meeting for the housing study that we had done by RDG and the next steps forward. So to be honest, it was kind of disappointing because it was a very, very small group, but it did kind of point out the people that are really invested in knowing how we're moving forward and what that could look like. And Dr. Laura Vanderhoof was actually our person after you and I kind of gave a brief synopsis of the information gathered from last meeting and where we were at, such as the Development 101 toolkit and the landing page for developers and builders. And then Laura kind of picked it up and had some really good questions that she asked us to make us start thinking about, okay, this is what we've done so far. How do we want to move forward? What does that look like? And she kept getting feedback from folks. And so that, I love that part of it because it brings different voices in. There was a group of realtors there, and they had a completely different take on some things in our conversation than what you or I did, or just the average person that was there.
Yes, they had said some things about interest rates. So people are not leaving their homes because they can't match the interest rates. But some of the things that they brought up were pretty interesting. So it's okay if I buy a brand new car and I got a 10% interest on it, right? But I'm not in it. The cars are a lot of money.
Yeah.
But yet I'm not willing to buy a house with an interest rate of that same amount. So I would rather stay where I am than try to move up or down.
Yeah.
And so people are being trapped in homes because they don't want to give up a really good rate if they have. I think my son's rate on his house is like 2.5% or something.
Yeah.
He's not giving that rate up. Of course, he's got a house that's going to work for him for a long, long time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a perfect little house. It's a perfect house. But he's like, man, I don't want to give up that. He even said that. I don't want to give up this rate. That's way too good of a rate. So people are staying put, unfortunately, because they don't want to give up those rates. When I bought my first house, this tells you how old I am, I had like a 13% interest rate. Of course, I was 19, didn't know nothing, and I didn't care. I just wanted that house.
See, and I think when Carrie and I bought ours, it was probably somewhere around 8%. Mm-hmm. And then as we watched it drop over a few years or whatever, then we went in and refinanced.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think that's the piece that, we're missing is some of this financial literacy. That was another thing that was talked about yesterday. Mm-hmm. And just helping people understand how they can make this work. But I felt overall it was a really good conference. Lots of great speakers. If you weren't there, you really missed out.
You did miss out.
And so even now, we will start talking about next year's conference.
Yeah.
What does it look like?
Should we shorten it? Do we get more people involved in planning the conference? You know what I thought was really interesting? We had people from Salina, Hutch, Newton, Hayes, Manhattan there, and yet people in our own community a lot of times didn't come for even a portion of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, it was free. The only thing that was $25 if you wanted to stay for lunch.
Yeah.
And that just kind of covered those costs, but the rest of it was free. I mean, it was like, I don't know how you get people to understand how important this stuff is. So that was interesting. I don't quite have an answer for that. And a lot of the people that came were really because they have personal relationships with us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm exhausted. I love people kind of. And I know I'm funny. But I can't have coffee with every single person.
I know.
Because somebody said, well, we'll just have coffee and you can tell me all about it. I put on a conference so you could all come, you could all be there, and I'm so grateful for the ones that did show up. I had a few people who texted me and said, I'm so sorry this happened.
Yeah.
There were like one of our board members got sick. Of course she couldn't come. And then another one, her husband, ended up having to go to the airport, which is quite a ways away, and so she couldn't make it. And there was a few that I really understood.
Yeah.
But then there's other people who never come.
Yeah.
And then they want me to tell them all about it. So I am not going to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so, there was something else very, very, very important that happened yesterday.
What was that?
At the very same time as our conference. And that was Kansas Legal Services came to McPherson. They brought 14 attorneys and paralegals. They had appointments scheduled ahead of time for 26 clients. They had 3 additional people that just didn't show up, which I don't understand that. But then they had 10 people that walked in without an appointment. So 36 people yesterday got to sit with an attorney and have paperwork filled out for an expungement on any conviction or felony on your record that you've paid your fees and fines and there's been that appropriate length of time. They got their paperwork done for free. They'll take that paperwork to the courthouse, pay a $125 filing fee. I can barely wait to hear how many were expunged.
So let me ask you this. Does that mean I'm going to get hugged again?
Oh, well, I don't know. Because the last time we did this, it was at the same place as our conference, and people saw you.
I know. I'm trying to hide.
And this time, Journey Church hosted.
It was a lot.
Journey Church allowed us to use their space, so nobody actually saw you.
Okay, good. Whew, I'm safe.
So maybe you're safe.
I did get hugs yesterday, and I was like, oh.
No. You're so funny.
I know. I am hilarious. There are certain people that can hug me.
Yeah.
Like Lori Schultz, she can hug me all day long. Yeah. You could probably hug me. I don't know about Joey over there. That's kind of questionable.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I just don't like this hugging thing going on, but I'm okay with it. My family's not hugger. There's no hugging going on there. And it's like, get away.
Well,
but anyways, I tolerate it. It makes me nervous. But somebody did say to me, they're like, okay, I'm not going to hug you because I know you ate it. So I'm so glad people know this now. Yeah. I don't have to worry about being attacked or something.
I don't know. 36 people yesterday.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
That's awesome.
For our listeners, I'll keep you informed.
Yes. When the next time we have a podcast, when we have that number, we'll definitely keep you posted. So we're looking at next year's. We don't know what we're going to do, but we do. But in all seriousness, if you do have questions about the Housing Coalition, or you do want to have a tour of the Oak Harbor or Southern End Estates or some of the other stuff, get a hold of us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're really open to coming and talking to somebody and talking to you or whatever. And I want to give a shout out. So this is really fun. We found out today that somebody from Texas listens regularly.
Yes.
So I want to give a shout out to him. I'm assuming it's a him.
Yes.
And I know in California, there's a bunch of people there listening. So hello.
Yeah.
And I don't know where else we have people listening, but those are ones I was hearing about today. So I thought, we should let them know that we're acknowledging it, that we appreciate that you are listening to our podcast. We hope that you're getting the information that you need for what you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
And this was a really good, it was a good day yesterday. I mean, I give people a lot of trash about it, but it was a fun day, and we got a lot of good feedback.
We did. All right. Well, we're going to close now. Okay. So if you would be interested, or you know somebody who would be interested in being on Housing for Good, drop us a line. Hey, leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you love or don't love about what we say. You can do that at housingforgood@mcphersonhc.org. Thank you for listening, and be sure to click the like and follow buttons.
And have a great day.